Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Yes, it is storming outside. Yes, we're going to keep rolling with it. Let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Mount Biceps. All right, let's talk a little bit about obesity. And when I say this, I don't want people listening in who aren't familiar with me in the long term, who are like, oh, who's this fit guy? This guy's almost 50, looks like this. He's been working out forever. He knows nothing about our struggles. I used to be 300 pounds. When I was 19 years old, I was 300 pounds and didn't lift. So yes, I absolutely understand the struggles, guys. And I understand the psychology, and I had my own disordered eating. So when people out there hear really oftentimes morbidly obese people say that they feel like victims, we see a lot of people say, oh, you're just trying to play the victim card. You're not accepting the consequences of your life choices. But here's what people need to think about. Maybe that is really what's going on. Maybe they really and truly do feel like victims and feel like it is outside of their control because it's oftentimes tied to trauma, right? It's oftentimes tied to trauma. It's oftentimes tied to family habits, family traditions, bad habits. So when that happens, people do feel like victims. And again, as I've said in previous videos, we have a society that's built around that and caters to that. And I'm going to jump into that a little bit. And so, this is stuff that for me as a coach, I have to be understanding of with my own lifters. Because even though I've historically been a strength coach, and even these days I do more physique transformations with my dad bod to daddy, I do deal with people who have binge eating problems. I deal with people who have unhealthy relationships with food. And I've been in that situation. And even to this day, a lot of that affects me. And I'll give you guys an example. And I've been very honest with this. And I don't want to go into a lot of details for a whole lot of reasons. But I've been open about the fact that I'm a survivor of childhood abuse, right, inside my family. And in my case, when I was very young, one of the things used to soothe me and to keep me quiet was to be fed lots of ice cream. So the family members that did this, they used to give me ice cream. So whenever I was crying and traumatized, as a very small child, they had a whole giant deep freeze with about 8 or 10 different flavors of Bluebell ice cream. And to make me stop crying, like, you can have any of them you want. If you want more than one flavor, you want cookies and cream and Rocky Road. You can have both, whatever. Have half and half each, and you can eat as much of it as you want until you feel better. Everything's going to be okay. Now, that's already an enormously sadistic thing. But think about the way then that impacts people. And I've been able to actualize this. This is one of the reasons I've been able to successfully have lost that weight. Coming to terms with where my own disordered eating comes from. Because in my case, I was taught as a young child that the response to trauma was to eat the most enjoyable foods that I could find, my pick of flavors, to gorge on it until the pain went away. Soothe your pain by eating and eating and eating and eating until the pain's gone. No wonder I got to 300 pounds. Particularly because I hadn't resolved that childhood trauma. So, do we see where we're going with this? So when people say, well, a lot of times obese people are just they're making excuses. Okay, yeah, I got up and trained it off. I got up and ran and cut all the junk out of my diet until I lost 100 pounds. But that's not easy. Like, I don't look back at that and go, oh man, that was super easy. I could just teach anybody to do that. It took for me, there was a degree of self-loathing involved. And I don't want to go into the details of that, but essentially it was a case for me if I got up one day and decided that I would rather die than still be that fat. And that's a messed up situation. That's what it took for me to do that, though. I didn't care about the consequences. I did not want to be that person. So yeah, I took it pretty extreme pretty fast. That's not a healthy mindset either, is it? So why then do so many obese people feel the victims? Because look at our society. We have a society with access to unlimited, cheap, hyper-palatable, calorie-dense food. People say silly stuff like, well, you know, it's healthy food's hard to get. No, it's just junk food is just so available. High calories are available. They're cheap. They're cheap. And that's true to a certain extent because table sugar is cheap. Oils are cheap. Stuff we can make all the junk food out of is really inexpensive. It's readily available. So we have access to extremely calorie-dense, hyper-palatable foods that are easy to overeat. We've been taught then as a society that they're medication. We've been taught that they're fun, that they're social. Think about how our society is structured with that. We have a society that teaches us that you celebrate with loved ones by eating abundant amounts of hyper-palatable food. Right? Cakes, pies, ice cream. Right? We celebrate everything with big feasts, complete with junk. And you've got to have massive 16 desserts with it, with all the greasy, fatty food. Right? How do we celebrate every party? Birthday cake and ice cream. That's how we celebrate everything. All of our milestones as family, all your get-togethers are built as a society, not saying everyone, but by and large, are built around gorging on junk. And that's when we're happy and socialize, and we associate that with love. We associate that with community. We associate that with family. Okay, come over to the rest of it. We're taught to celebrate all victories. We're rewarding ourselves with this stuff. I earned this night out drinking. I earned this pizza. I earned this treat, this ice cream. I earned this dessert. You know, companies throw pizza parties instead of giving people raises, right? Big milestones. Throw you a pizza party, feed you a bunch of junk. We're taught to celebrate all of our victories and accomplishments by rewarding ourselves with it. Then we're also taught, I've had a bad day. What's the medicine for that? If I have a big old dessert, I go get all this big old steak or fried chicken, French fries, whatever, and then have a big dessert with it. I can have cheesecake and ice cream with it. I'll feel better. I deserve it. I'm having a rough time. I'll soothe myself, make myself feel better. We are then taught that it's a way to soothe. And we do this in a society where mental illness and trauma run rampant. We're taught to soothe with this stuff. Okay? Then people wonder why so many obese people say, I don't know how to stop. I feel like a victim. They're a victim of society. But until they find and accept those mechanisms, say, hey, well, this is, society has programmed me wrong. I'm in control. Until they learn to do that, they are going to continue to be victims of it. Because they are victims. It's not just playing the victim. They really are. People have been victims of their upbringing, their childhood trauma, their environment, their family, their social settings. Okay? This is why we have this problem. It's a whole cascade of things that have come together to create this epidemic. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.